When you think of famous creepypastas that have come out of Nichan over the years, several stories probably come to mind. Hashaku-sama, Kisaragi Station, Kune-kune, and no doubt, Kankandara. But if you're unaware of Kankandara, don't worry. Today we're going to be taking a look at who she is, how she came to be, whether she might actually be real, and if so, where she could be now. It's believed the story of Kankandara was first shared on a website called Horrorteller in March 2009. This website no longer exists, and it was also shared on Nichan soon thereafter, where its popularity exploded. Also known as Naridara, or simply Dara, Kankandara is a monstrous creature, possibly even a god, found in a fixed location in the mountains or forests of Japan. This fixed spot can be and is often moved around the country, however, meaning you never know if she might be coming to your town next, or worse, if she's already there. In the story, Kankandara is described as taking the form of a woman with 6 arms, a former shrine maiden, but her lower half is unknown. It's unknown because if you see it, you go mad. Although it's most often depicted in art as being that of a snake, thanks to her origin story. The woman that would be Kankandara was, long ago, a shrine maiden, the divine child from a long line of Shinto priests and shrine maidens. A certain village was under attack by a giant snake, and so they sought her family's help to get rid of the beast. The family sent the maiden, being the strongest of them all, and when she was close to besting the beast, it clamped onto her, tearing her lower torso off and eating it. Even in this state, the maiden continued her efforts, but the villagers, seeing the tide of the battle turning, betrayed the maiden and offered her to the giant snake as a sacrifice instead. If the snake would agree to leave them alone, it could have the rest of the maiden too. This might seem like a strange exchange, considering the snake had already eaten the lower half of her body. But this maiden was supremely powerful, and it was an agreeable deal to the snake. The villagers were nothing to it. But this maiden was brimming with power that the snake wanted, so after agreeing, the villagers cut her arms off, and the snake swallowed her whole without resistance. The shrine maiden's family were understandably upset with this turn of events, so they formed a new plan. Despite the giant snake's withdrawal, villagers started dying one by one, often found missing their limbs. 12 villagers died in total. At some point, the maiden's family also disappeared, and it was never mentioned what happened to them. There were 6 of them, and the limbless shrine maiden returned with 6 arms, so perhaps they joined her angry spirit. This part is unclear, however, and never stated, so it's nothing more than a guess. Before long, only 4 villagers remained, and they made their way to the maiden's house to try and find a way to appease her righteous rage. It was there that they came up with the ritual that is still being carried out to this day. And what is that ritual? A box was created with a vase placed at each of the corners, full of liquid, this representing the 4 survivors, and in the middle, 6 toothpicks, representing the shrine maiden's family members, were placed in a very rough shape of a snake. This box would eventually be covered in the family crests of those charged with taking care of Kankandara as well. The sacred box was then placed inside an area with 6 trees and 6 pieces of rope, representing the 12 villagers who had died. The 4 remaining villagers were the first ones to take on this task, but it eventually spread to other families as well, presumably relatives or acquaintances trustworthy enough to be let in on the terrible burden. Each of these families in turn bore their own shrine maidens, and it's these maidens who are ultimately tasked with keeping Kankandara appeased today. they see her as a god, being that the giant snake that consumed her human form was also thought to be a mountain kami. Once a year, these maidens gather to perform songs, dances, and to recite Shinto prayers for her, and these same maidens are the ones who carefully select Kankandara's resting places. These are chosen with the utmost care, and must be located somewhere deep in the mountains or the forests of Japan. When setting up Kankandara's new resting place, a 2-meter high fence is erected in the shape of a hexagon. This fence is designed to keep people out, not to keep Kankandara in, and it's made with sacred rope, barbed wire, numerous bells, and shide, which is Shinto zigzag streamers. Inside that area, the box and its special seal of 6 trees with 6 ropes is also set up. It's been said that Kankandara can be seen on occasion moving around inside the barrier, or even hanging off the fence, but only if she chooses to show herself. Otherwise, people would have no idea that she's there. In this environment, Kankandara will generally appear as the shrine maiden she was, although with additional arms, which is what the protagonists in the story saw. But she also has her more fearsome and presumably snake form, which is the form she takes when she fully intends on murdering someone, rather than just playing with them. But where is Kankandara? No location is specified in the original story, and in the end, she moves to a new, unnamed location anyway. Someone once claimed the story took place in Kyushu, as they stumbled upon the site themselves, but there's never been any proof of this, and Kyushu is a pretty big place anyway. Giant snakes, of course, play an important part in Japanese mythology, and there are numerous shrines around the country dedicated to their worship. There are even snake gods, such as Ugami, who is commonly depicted as having a snake's body, and either the head of a young woman or an old man. The idea of Kankandara existing therefore isn't strange, nor that this snake god might be worshipped and moved around the country. But unlike the public and well-known shrines dedicated to snakes, Kankandara has proven much more difficult to pin down. By design, of course. The fear in the story lies in not knowing where she is, in not knowing whether she'll show up in your town next, whether you might accidentally stumble upon her while out walking in the forest or mountains one day. There have been claims that Kankandara was actually based on the tale of Kiyohime, a woman who fell in love with a monk but, when rejected, turned into a snake after death and hunted him down, eventually killing him inside a bell that he was hiding in. That story took place in Kumano Prefecture, but even if Kankandara was loosely based upon this tale, that doesn't guarantee that her story took place in the same location, and does little to help us with where she might be now. Perhaps the best lead, for lack of a better term, on Kankandara's current location stemmed from a YouTube comment on a short film made about the lady herself. This user claimed that she was now hidden on a mountain somewhere in Chiba Prefecture. Why did they think this? Because they apparently found a fenced-off area in Nagara City with a no-entry sign attached. Now, this alone isn't anything to be alarmed about. Fenced-off places with no entry signs exist all around the country, even in forests and mountains. But this particular location caught their attention because it apparently looked just like the hexagon fence in the story, and had recently been upgraded with guards and security cameras, perhaps in a sign of the times. This reply was posted 2 years ago as of this video. It's never specified in the original story how often Kankandara moves around, but probably not too frequently, considering how much effort goes into choosing each location, and the coordination required to move her around the country. If true, then hey, maybe she's currently residing somewhere in Chiba Prefecture. Assuming, of course, that you believe the story is true, and not just a really well-written creepypasta that many people, for their own reasons, want to believe is real. Snake worship and snake gods aren't uncommon in Shinto beliefs. It's why we get so many creepypastas featuring them. And on that front, Kankandara is just one of many. Her fascinating story captured the imagination of many, and many wanted her story to be real. After all, if you can believe that creatures like Yamata no Orochi played a part in the early stories of Japan, why couldn't Kankandara exist now? Of course, many more accept her story as nothing more than just that. A well-designed tale taking numerous aspects of Shinto beliefs and weaving them into something terrifying, both modern and old at the same time. Does Kankandara exist? Undoubtedly not, but that doesn't make her tale any less interesting or worthwhile. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.